Mrs. Hess?
Here.
Mr. Holdren?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Stone?
Here.
Mr. Tadalini?
Here.
Mr. Chark?
Here. We do have a quorum. Please rise. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any discussion? There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chark?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chark?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, celebrations. Does any board member or Mrs. Cody have celebrations to share?
I do have a few. First, I want to celebrate our state science fair winners. You can see them up here on the screen. And also, Anastasia the Musical, the BHS Drama Club had, I've heard about an excellent performance Friday night. What did you say, 350 people attended? So a wonderful, wonderful performance. And they also had 2 performances on Saturday that I'm sure were equally as great. Also want to acknowledge Evelyn Lapp. She broke the school record for the 3200 and also the school record for the 1600. So great job to her. Also, Adeline Mason is 13-5 heading into the Tennis Patriot League matches today with regionals and state, which are coming up very soon. Also, want to acknowledge Jocelyn Middlemist received the All-State Basketball and Second Team All-Conference. Donovan Barr-Reeves was the Mile High Prep Report 3A Freshman of the Year for basketball and First Team All-Conference and All-State Honorable Mention. And Sydney Miller was First Team All-Conference. Eric Rico was Second Team All-Conference. Callie Kastrup was All-Conference Honorable Mention. And then a huge appreciation for all of our teachers. May 4th through May 7th is Teacher Appreciation Week, and the greatest impact, the greatest factor for student achievement is the teacher. And so a big shout out to all of our teachers throughout our district that work so hard to make a difference in children's lives. And so going back to science fair, I'm just gonna pull this up with the awards. So there are several. I don't know if we want to say them all. I'm just gonna pull them up so you can read all of them. Just want to acknowledge all of the hard work that went into providing so many students the opportunity to participate in science fair, to do well both at regionals and then also at state.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any celebrations to share? I'll share one. I want to give a big thank you to the financial team for just continuing to provide clarity and transparency to the board. In particular, I want to recognize Mrs. Candy Guzman for her work in just attention to detail and completeness as she's entering the line item transactions that we see on the operating statement or on the disbursement listing. That's been really helpful for me to be able to go through that report and understand where money's being spent. So props to her. Okay, next item of business will be 5.1 Tech and AI Task Force.
Good evening. So, we have our new guidelines, or fresh new guidelines. So, last fall, me and Marcia, and along with, after we went to the AI conference, started conversations about screen time. And we introduced that to our AI task force, and we changed it from the AI task force to the Tech and AI task force. And our first goal under that new title was to evaluate our relationship with screens. And so we started with research on screen time effects on children's cardiovascular health, their sleep schedules, things like that, and began the process of coming up with guidelines that model the behavior we want, or model behavior for screen time for students and parents. And then from there, we also looked into its ed tech's effects on, or outcomes, and how they may not be as good or what we would prefer, or whether the promise of ed tech really was delivered. And the end result of that was the technology use guidelines. That's pretty much the short version.
And I want to give a big shout out to the task force members. You'll see them listed on the screen. There was a large group of staff who agreed to participate in this. We met at least once a month through the fall, and then also reconvened in the winter. And it was a lot of research. They also first read and watched a lot of research, and then we asked that they provide additional research. And then they spent time on their own reading and listening and watching and just diving into the impact of ed tech and the impact of screens, just like Mr. Murphy said. And then engaged in a conversation about what is responsible and appropriate use for technology for Brush School District, throughout our district. What do we want that to look like? What do we want to say, this is what you can expect? And that's what the tech guidelines are. And so this is coming from that task force. And they're saying a maximum of 30 to 60 minutes per day at the elementary. And then at 6th through 8th grade, you can see as needed for specific classes. And then the one-to-one devices won't actually start until 9th grade. We'll have Chrome carts available, but not one-to-one devices if the board chooses to approve this. I'm not asking you to take action on this tonight. This is for you to look at, and also the people in this room can talk about their thoughts on the guidelines and why they think they're important, or the conversations they've had with staff. Because that is a significant shift, right? We've had one-to-one devices for several years now, as many school districts across the nation have. And we're saying, hey, instead of doing it at the younger grades, we're gonna just pull back and save that for 9th grade. So I'm gonna pick on Mr. Bass first. You don't have to share, but anything you wanna share from a principal's perspective?
It was not really a tough sell at any grade level at the secondary campus for these revisions. Pretty much most of the middle school staff did not take long to come on board with the idea of not being one-to-one. I would say the really only big feedback we got on the high school side was they're not sold on needing to be one-to-one at high school either. I think we have started to see that pendulum swing back a little bit, especially at our campus, of not necessarily wanting kids on devices to do their work.
Anybody else want to share?
I just want to say that I had the opportunity to attend the AI Elevate Leadership meeting a couple weeks ago. Was that a couple weeks ago or last week?
A week ago last
Friday. And at that meeting, a lot of school districts were talking about the need to evaluate ed tech usage and create guidelines around that. So I was really proud that I was able to brag on Brush because we did it. And so this work was really important, and we got a lot of questions about kind of like what we did and how we did that. So I was really proud that we recognized through that work that we were starting to do through the AI task force, that we really needed to address the ed tech usage piece and ed tech guidelines first before we could really kind of create those AI guidelines.
And this is probably important to note, this is the final, but we will constantly reevaluate and provide resources. We are looking at a different copier situation to allow for better and more efficient, print resources for teachers to use. The cart situation, the logistics on getting those ordered, and things like that. But yeah, I think this is a good first step, and I'm excited to see what we figure out and what people can learn from us. And I don't think we're alone in this thought that maybe we should have interrogated the one-to-one environment before diving in a little more, but this is the next best thing. So.
Any questions from the board?
I think it looks good. I appreciate your guys' thoroughness, and it's really well laid out, so thanks for putting that
What,
together.
What is our Chromebook inventory? And how does that reflect that? Is there, obviously this sounds like we're going to have a lot of Chromebooks that maybe aren't needed
Yes and
to
no.
some extent. Is there any way to capture any value on those? Because I know they have a shelf life, right? Most
Yeah,
likely.
they are pretty much useless 7 years after the initial manufacture date. The support is based on the model, not the manufacture date. So our Dell models we have at the high school will no longer receive updates after June 2029. Those are starting to fail, so I would like to keep all those so we can keep the one-to-one at the high school properly. We have not refreshed Thompson, so the Beaver Valley and middle school will be distributed, so we probably won't have many left to auction off or sell. There are parts, companies that will buy Chromebooks broken or working, and what's left over, I will get a count and start getting bids from those companies for sure. But I sent an account for the cart situation. We will need roughly, to have spares, about 1,100 Chromebooks. We currently have a little over 1,200, so not a ton, because of the one-to-one situation at secondary campus. Our compromise with the teachers not really wanting one-to-one with classroom sets, which will need roughly a few more, a few more than one-to-one to maintain that. So it kind of just works out to we'll need all of them, or at least the first year. And then we'll see.
And part of that is they're working on the logistics with the Chromebook carts. So we're going to put them into carts at K-8. So that teachers have access to them mainly, for testing, or if there's a unit where it's needed. It's just using it intentionally and strategically versus them going home. And I know Mr. Bass could talk about why he doesn't love Chromebooks to go home. And so
My email inbox will definitely be a lot better next year without Chromebooks going home with the full.
how many emails do you get on a weekend?
On a good night, it's probably 8 to 10. On a bad night, maybe 30 or 40, and then weekends, it's just near constant.
And that was before it blocked Spotify.
And that was,
Or that was after it blocked Spotify.
yeah, that was after the Spotify block. So, starting at about 4 p.m. until about 2 a.m. They just kind of ding in every night.
So those are emails that
From
someone's using?
Aristotle,
Yeah,
catching the filter.
yeah.
So, and if the goal is to model responsible or model screen time usage, sending them home at the high school still doesn't feel like that jives with the goal of these guidelines as well, I would say.
If you're ever curious, Bobby can show you the reports we've looked through. Educational use of our Chromebooks at home, especially on the weekends and even at night. Not high, but they do get used to play games and watch videos, so.
And ChatGPT.
Yeah. They can't get to ChatGPT at school, and so I have joked with our high school teachers. I can probably tell them all what they taught that day just by looking at ChatGPT queries as soon as they get home.
So that's something I didn't see a lot of on these guidelines. I assume that's the next step to tackle is the AI piece.
Correct. So first, just like Mrs. Kimball said, we want to define what is responsible and appropriate use of technology, and now it's responsible and appropriate use of AI.
Yeah.
I had a question for the secondary campus. They do like bathroom passes through their Chromebooks. Like, how is that going to work if they're not allowed to have their Chromebooks all the time?
We have a kiosk, there's a kiosk mode that you can set up in a classroom, so each classroom will have a kiosk Chromebook
Okay.
where they can do a pass from that.
Okay.
And then I assume your concurrent enrollment students that have online classes would have a
They'll be
one-on-one.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
We'll get that list from Danielle, get those ready before Penny takes, or before Penny retires and comes back, we'll get those set up for them.
Any other questions? And last but not least, I want to acknowledge Mr. Murphy. He's put a lot of time into this, a lot of effort. He is the one who shared the book that I shared with all of you, Digital Delusion, and he devours research. And so I appreciate all the time and the effort that he's put into this and into leading this work. So thank you very much.
Very good. Any other questions? Next item of business, 5.2 preschool update.
Hello. I think everyone's had a chance to read through the grant. I feel like things are moving in the right direction with Head Start. It's been great. When I first started this, the Head Start grant was like 250 pages. I gave you the 41-page modification that they've gone down to, and then when I have to upload in June, it's only like 10 pages. So we're getting better. I'm super excited about that. But I wanted to make sure you guys had a good overview. There's not a whole lot of changes because we're in year 3 of our 5-year grant, which is great. But there still is the approval process that we need from the board. Policy Council has already went through the different pieces. Ms. Garrett sits on that, and she's gone through that with our Policy Council. The big components that I just want everyone to, besides teaching in the classroom, the other components that we are constantly getting checked on are the health, nutrition, and then the family supports that we still offer through our either enrollment program, our family partnerships, different areas for that. The other piece in there are the 4 grants that will continue. We're not changing any of the 4 grants. We're still tracking all of those. Big ones being communication credentials that teachers are getting, which is our highest credential level that we've had in the last actually 7 years. But we're only reporting on the last 3. And then as well as our class scores. And I'd really like to highlight our teacher on our class scores and goals. As we know, things are ever changing in class. Of course, 10 days before we did our class review this year, just like quick little synopsis on that, they don't come out in person anymore. So Casey and I get to juggle Chromebooks and phones and everything, and we get to video our classrooms. And you have to keep a certain percentage of children in the view. You have to mic up your teachers. You have to move through the classroom and pan different things. And it was an obstacle for sure, making sure, because in all of our preschool classrooms we also have bathrooms, and preschoolers and bathrooms and leaving doors open, and so there's all of those components that we had to take into play. So it was Casey and I don't know, I felt like circus monkeys as we were moving through the classroom. So it was eventful, but we sent everything off. We were ahead of schedule, so we were actually the first ones to get our scores back. They used to go off of a national mean. They no longer do that. They do now a quality threshold and a competitive threshold. If you're below the competitive threshold, you go into the non-renewal system and you have to recompete for your grant. So you're never wanting to be below that. And obviously quality threshold is where we strive to be. We want to be above that or working towards that. There's 3 domains. There's emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. The hardest one is always instructional support. It's always about building those vocabulary words, having those feedback loops and social engagements through 3 different avenues, whether it's teacher to teacher, peer to teacher, or child to child, or teacher to child. So we met all of the competitive thresholds. We were above all of them substantially. We were only 1 1/100th of a point off of quality for emotional support. So they were like, oh, we'll give that one too. So I was super proud of that. 1/10 off of the quality for classroom organization, and the area that we need to work is 3/10 off of the quality threshold for instructional support. So huge shout out to my team. They're just amazing. I think they, not just the lead teachers, but the co-teachers, they do a great job making sure children have what they need, the communication's there. It's in a wonderful, a wonderful atmosphere that they all have. So super excited about, about doing that, moving forward with that. I hope we don't have to do it again for 5 more years. But we gave some feedback for that, things that you just miss when you're in the classroom that you can't capture on a video. So that was kind of our feedback to Head Start, that they're missing some great pieces that still happen in the background that you just can't see through technology. So looking forward to that. Other than that, I just wanted to give you like some projected hopefuls for next year. If you've seen the board reports in the past, we've been sitting anywhere around 123 to 130 kids. We're at the highest we've been all year long in this last month or two. We're at 130 kids right now. And we actually have 136 kids registered for next year. So I'm having parents come in, sign on that dotted line, like you're coming back in August. So we're hopeful that those numbers will stay strong throughout the summer, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll in August. Just some great things, and I know Miss Cody has our little video on her report, if you want to show it now. One of our big things, we were just trying to find creative ways to get out there, like, hey, preschool, I know people don't think about school until August, and we're like, how do we do this, and how do we do it? So we did some little videos, and so we, Miss Suter was able to go around and create the, it's
Is it
just,
okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We had the teachers, we asked parents, different words that describe preschool, and each kid was holding up. I know it's really hard to read because they're jumping around and all the crazy things. So different things that describe preschool, and there was about 23, I think, kids that did that, and at the very end it said, we saved you a seat for the upcoming school year. So super cute. We have one more registration date for the school year, is May 13th. We're hoping, we'll take them all. We could fit 190, I think, in those classrooms. It'd be really tight, but we could do it if we had to. So we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of preschool in a nutshell at this point in time of the year, and things are going crazy. But do you guys have any questions or anything else that maybe I missed from the grant?
I just want to make a statement. So Mrs. Smith has had the opportunity, as you all are aware, of doing the Head Start audit and these videos this class. So she's had a really fun year. And both have come back exemplary, just really, really good. So I appreciate all the work that you and all the teachers are doing. It is a fun place to be. I enjoy going into the preschools. Also, I just want to remind the board that Morgan County Times selected our preschool, Brush Preschool, as the #1 school in Morgan County. So that just is another example of the great work that's going on over there. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
What are we doing? The board?
Any questions?
Any questions? All right.
Thank you. Next item of business, 5.3, Chartwells. Favorite part of your week?
Favorite part. You know me already. Sorry, you can say. Our first part of business, I guess, is the celebration. I could have joined in with that. Celebrating Becky. She went through a 16-week program with our HIPO program, which is going to further her in the career, where she can take my job if she wants to, I guess, but we're gonna hope we can keep her around, because we don't want to lose her. She's the one who provides most all your guys' delicious food when we have it. So she went through that program, did hourly 1 hour a week call to learn something new every week. So marketing, finance, all the stuff that we do.
And then at the end, she had to do a presentation, which she got a lot of feedback, good feedback from the panel that was there, so. Congratulations to Becky, she did a great job, and she's one of our top people here, she's amazing, so. We would miss her if they ever took her, but we're not gonna let them. So this is all her goodies that they give her, and her graduation, so. And then, the other things are simple, I think it's on that newsletter I gave you, but we had our AR, our administrative review, and it went very well, as nervous as I was for that, because it's my first big audit that I've had. Food service side, we only had one, what do you call it? One corrective action, and it was for flyers not being hung up for our fresh fruits and vegetable program, and those are now from the school, so. And we had 11 accommodations come through, which are listed on that as well. So if you guys are in town today, you see the staff, give them a big high five, because they did an amazing job, and it was all their first time. So a bunch of new staff in there, and they knocked it out of the park, so I'm very proud of those guys.
Great.
And as you know, Chartwell's also had the opportunity to go through and audit our food service. So, and again, went really, really well. So thank you for all that you did and all that you do. I know the board and staff appreciate the work that Chartwell's does a lot.
You guys are doing great, so.
Could we get a picture of Becky and you and Miss Berg in front of the board?
I've been playing in my garden. I'm just here to take photos tonight.
In here?
But yeah.
Yeah, if you'll just stand in the board, if you just want to stand there, you know, just kind of squish it maybe behind, kind of by Mr. Catalino. And then
I could do that in the back.
whichever way would be easiest, yeah. Mrs. Berg, are you sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, just me and you. Come on. Thank you, guys.
Any questions for them? Next item of business, 6.1, DAC report. Mrs. Bollinger?
Hi there. We didn't have too much last week, April 8th, 2 weeks ago. We started out reviewing our goals that we set at the beginning of this school year. We had 4 main goals, and we felt like we had done pretty well. One was the budget subcommittee to provide some just more budget input. The second one was parent engagement. We had some discussion on that, on still working to improve engagement and communication more, but we feel we've made some strides there. And then the last 2 were to provide feedback on the strategic plan and on school performance throughout the year. So those are our main goals this year. We feel we've made a good amount of strides in. So we had our building reports. We had a long discussion on the tech and AI task force and the guidelines they provided. Went over a lot of the research, and we didn't have an action item, but the general consensus was same as was discussed here. Very impressed with the work that was put in. Didn't really have a lot of pushback or concern from anyone at the meeting. Everyone felt this was really going in the right direction and a great step to take. So other than that, we just had a amended curriculum proposal from Lindsay Kimball, which we recommended being approved, and that was pretty much it. So, any questions on DAC? We have one more meeting for this school year.
May 13th.
Yeah, we'll have one more meeting.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item of business is 6.2, curriculum instruction data and assessment report.
So to start, we have the approval for the science resources. And Bradley is here. He's going to talk a little bit about why we pushed this to a later date and what changes we made on those resources. I included the approval budget line there for $66,054.27. I also included what you approved last month. So the total for curricular resources next year will be $132,352.22. For science, we are staying with McGraw-Hill. We just chose a different path. Rather than having the student workbooks, we opted to go with hard class sets of books. And then we'll stick with the same Inspire Science pieces that we already presented on, or we didn't actually present on, that have been over in the corner there. And then Gizmos, which is a supplemental lab resource, which just gives our students the opportunity to have experience with labs that they wouldn't be able to have experience with otherwise. I'll let Bradley talk a little bit about the 6 to 8 hard books that will be in each classroom, and then the 9-12 Inspire resources.
And I think on the middle school side, the other tough part was the workbook came with a digital textbook, and heard pretty clearly that our staff wasn't in love with the digital textbook resource. The frustration on our end was when we had requested from McGraw-Hill resources, they sent everything out. Our high school loved the resources that were there, and our middle school was like, hey, we don't necessarily love it 100%, but we can make it work, because high school likes it, and we have some of our own curriculum stuff will be okay. And so we were ready to move forward with adoption, and then right as we took it to DAC and it was ready to come to you, McGraw-Hill reached back out and they were like, well, if you don't love the workbook and digital model, we do have hard copy textbooks. That's what we requested the first time. Thank you.
Nice to know.
So they sent those out, and our middle school science was like, yeah, this is actually pretty much what we're looking for. So we'll have class sets of those, and middle school a little more than a class set. That'll be enough that they could check a few out a day if they needed to. And then on the high school side, class sets with, again, enough that we can check out. If kids need to take books home for whatever reason, there'll be enough that they can check some out on daily use to bring back. Also on the high school side, just a big update in general. We've not adopted chemistry books, maybe, I want to joke, since I've been alive, and we might be close on that. It's been a while since we've adopted a new chemistry resource, so those will be new and updated. And then our crew that teaches freshman science are really excited because we'll actually have a textbook that aligns with what we've done with that course for the last 5 years. It had previously been a semester of earth science and a semester of physical science, and we had separate textbooks for each. And then we adopted kind of the intro to chemistry, physical science, and earth science curriculum that's an overview of everything intermixed and intertwined. And we were a little short on that primary resource. We made it work for 5 years by them just kind of finding their own stuff for those chunks, but we actually have a book that covers that same scope and sequence. So they're excited on that side to have a resource that'll actually match what we've been doing for the last few years. Overall, I think it's a good set, and we're future-proof. Next year will be the first year where we have students taking 6 credits of science. Right now, this is our last graduating class where they had to have 4. This year's juniors and this year's seniors. So next year's juniors, our current sophomores, are the first crew that have to have 6 science credits to graduate, and we were able to match some of those class set numbers to course request numbers. So pretty confident we have enough at the high school side to cover what will be an influx in science enrollment next year.
And this way also reduced our quote from, I think, around 90,000 to the 66, so that's a win.
It doesn't happen very often. You
Yeah.
get what you want for
Really
less
is
money.
down.
Yeah.
In some cost context, that is the equivalent of what refreshing 2 grades of Chromebooks was last year. It's a lot more now.
Really?
Well, that's great news.
I also went ahead and attached a link to our supplemental approvals for next year. So these are resources that you've already approved. I attached them for our new board members so that you can see what it is that we'll continue to renew for next year. I've also reduced our supplemental budget from 75,000 to 50,000.
So a lot of cutting. Just want to appreciate and shout out all the cutting. Keeping what is needed, but removing some of that. Good.
I also just wanted to give you an update on our ELA resource selection process. So the Curriculum Council met and At the end of last year, we created an evaluation tool to help us with the pilot process. Teachers have completed that evaluation tool at the end of the CKLA pilot. They'll complete the same evaluation tool at the end of the L Education pilot. We also created an additional evaluation tool that's aligned to the science of reading, and we will have each teacher complete both rubrics the beginning of May. That data will then come back to the Curriculum Council, we'll analyze it, and then make a final recommendation to the board once we have that information.
Any questions on curriculum for Mrs. Kimball? Or me? All right.
I went ahead and updated our percentages, so this is district observation data as of April 14th. This has stayed pretty similar to what it was last month. There hasn't been a ton of fluctuation, maybe up or down a little bit in different areas. So that's celebration, that's exciting. We're still continuing to look at the same things, so student learning objectives, making sure that they're measurable, that they're aligned to grade level standards, along with student engagement, and whether or not that engagement is once throughout the lesson or ongoing throughout the lesson. We're still also looking for the engagement in grade level writing. Data and assessment, we are at the last week of our state assessment window, so we'll be wrapping up everything by Thursday, and then we'll move into our district end of the year testing next week through May 11th. Our plan is, once we have all of our district data finalized, we'll review that as an admin team, and then we plan to present to the Board of Education in June and give you just a little presentation over our data from beginning of the year to the end of the year. We also will plan to do that with our state assessment data as well. However, state assessment data has embargoes on it, and we aren't allowed to talk about that data or give that data out until the state lifts those embargoes. And we don't usually find out what that lift date is until June, maybe. So hopefully we'll be able to have a presentation on that data in August or September once that embargo is removed. I don't have any state data collection updates. That list is still the same from last month. And then I just also wanted to give you some updates on grants. So at our last meeting, I had told you that I had applied for the reallocated Title IV grant and the EASY Empowering Action for School Improvement supplemental grant for a teacher on special assignment for an instructional coach at Beaver Valley. We were awarded both of those, so that's exciting. The reallocated title grant was actually a very, very, very competitive grant. I was surprised when we were awarded funding for that. They had over $2 million in requests, and they actually had a prioritized list of districts to receive funding, and Brush was not on that list. We had originally applied for around $22,000, and we received $11,000, which is phenomenal. And that's gonna help support summer school at the high school, as well as summer concurrent enrollment for students that are wanting to take summer classes at NCC. We also will be having 6th grade and 9th grade orientation, and we purchased some resources to help support 6th and 9th grade orientation. And there are parent resources, so helping transition your students from 6th grade or from 5th grade into 6th grade, as well as from 8th grade into 9th grade. So I'm excited about that because that's not ever something that we've given to parents before. We also have the strategic planning grant through EASY that we are working with CEI on. And we initiated that, but last Friday we had our staff members engage in a needs assessment aligned with the Colorado 4 Domains of Rapid School Improvement. CEI is analyzing all of that data, and once they have that done, they'll share that back out with us as an admin team, and then we'll continue to move forward with that. I also wanted to share a little bit about the teacher degree apprenticeship program that I decided to move forward with. I'm really excited for this program because it's going to give current employees that are paraprofessionals that don't have a bachelor's degree the opportunity to go to school and get a bachelor's degree in education. And we're partnering with CareerWise and Colorado Mountain College on this. I included a couple different links for you to look at, and there's a lot of information on there, so I'll let you digest that, and if you have questions about it next month, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those. But I also just kind of put a little visual here that shows the different levels that are associated with the teacher apprenticeship program. Level 1 is for high school students that are in a pre-apprenticeship, and they can do some college work working towards their bachelor's degree in education. We don't anticipate having any high school students at this time next year, but that could change. Level 2 and 3 are for paraprofessionals. Again, they can't already have a bachelor's degree, but if they're interested and want to get a bachelor's degree in education, then they would start out at a level 2 or a level 3. They have to be employed with Brush as a paraprofessional. And then they work with Colorado Mountain College on their content, and they take all of the same classes, a lot of the same classes that I took, just in a little bit of a different format. And then they move into a level 4, which is a trained teacher. They can apply to be a teacher of record as long as they meet all of the criteria to get their initial teaching license. And then level 5 is the completer. So they are actually then a licensed teacher and can be in the classroom. This can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years, just depending on the classes that they take and how fast they go through all of those classes. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that to our people.
I am too. To have a grow your own program right here is powerful, so thank you for your work on this.
Have you had a lot of interest in that program?
We're still kind of getting some information out. We've had some interest. So we have 2 people that have expressed interest right now. We know of a couple more. So yeah, we're still kind of planting some seeds and moving forward.
Don't feel like you have to answer this if you haven't completed the thought process or whatever, but I'm curious on how you envision high school students being able to, is this something like senior year, how they would participate in the pre-apprenticeship program?
So they would also start their coursework, similar to how they do coursework with MCC right now. And then I would envision this, there are some state things that are happening right now. So typically this pre-apprenticeship program would be funded with TREP or in conjunction with TREP. And TREP is in an interesting spot right now. It's a funding piece. So I'm not 100% sure. I would envision this though similar to the way that we currently have students that are pursuing coursework at MCC, and then also having students that are doing they do the teacher mentorship. So they go from the secondary campus over to Thompson or to Beaver Valley or to middle school classes and help teachers. What do they call that? Like a teacher, kind of like a teacher's aide. Yeah, that's kind of what I would envision it to be.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't thought a whole lot about that one right now, just because I don't really know what the TREP is gonna do.
Sure, that's
It's
fair.
slated for being cut in the state right now.
Do either of you have any light to shine on why the state embargoes assessment data?
I would say they probably embargo it because they have to put the same thing. They have to analyze all of that data and they have to create performance frameworks and all of the pieces that they have to do. I mean, other than that, maybe Marcia knows more.
So it's not embargoed for us. We get it right away. We get it in June, just like, and parents get their own data for their students. So that all goes out in June. What we can't do is share our data in a public format yet. And from my understanding, it's mainly because if there was an error, so as we're analyzing it, if we see something's off, that's our opportunity to reach back out and say, hey, something's wonky here. This needs to be corrected. And they expect that. Like, okay, this is our time. Once we say we're good and then they start releasing the school performance frameworks and the district performance frameworks. And first, the embargo is lifted for CMAS and PSAT, SAT, and then it'll be lifted off of the SPFs and DPFs. So we use it, our admin team will look at it too. So we're able to share it, just not publicly. Share it just with our admin team.
That helps, thank you. It's good to know that you guys can.
We did get to see it, yeah.
Okay.
So it usually is lifted publicly in early August, but I agree with Mrs. Kimball, I'm not sure, like, will we share it right before the work session? We'll see what that timing looks like.
I do know that current legislation is slated for all CMAS results to be available by June 1st.
Mhm.
So that's great.
Thank you, Bill.
Any
Okay.
questions for Mrs. Kimball? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item of business, 6.3 financial report.
Okay, guys. I'll be quick. I know it's a long meeting. I've already been warned.
Mr. Yake.
Yeah. I just got a couple of things. So, on the agenda tonight, you'll see that I'm requesting a new bank account being opened. What I propose is that we open a Fund 64, which is an optional, it's a risk management fund. Since we're going on a self-funded insurance plan, that's how it's designed. Right now, the insurance costs for health insurance are mixed in with everything else in the general fund. And what this will do is it'll put all the costs into one fund and allow us to do transfers to transfer over the cost. So it'll give us clean numbers so you guys can see exactly month by month, how the insurance is progressing as far as cost goes. It should, we're going through transfers, we'll transfer when all the bills come in. So at the beginning of the month, our bank account should be zero. At the end of the month, it should be zero, theoretically, if we did it right. So that's just one piece I wanted to bring to your attention. That's what I'm requesting. That's just a cleanup. That's all it is. It'll make it a lot better. As far as our health insurance for next year, thus far, it seems like it's going in pretty good shape. Brian Perry and 550 Advisors have spent about a month meeting one-on-one with staff members to answer questions and your concerns. We've got quite a bit of feedback, and so far it sounds like it's been pretty positive, and a lot of people have taken advantage of it, so that's really good to hear. We're also gonna host some informational Zoom meetings, one at 4 o'clock on April 27th and one at 4 o'clock on Monday, May 4th. Both will be recorded, and we'll be able to send those out to the staff if they cannot attend. We've also been sending weekly reminders so everyone knows that things are coming. Open enrollment's gonna start the next day, May 5th, and run through May 21st. Employees will be able to sign up through Burning Portal. There will be more information sent out. It's just an online portal where they can pick or waive coverage. Pretty simplified system, but anyone who needs help can also set up through with Landon and I, or with a one-on-one appointment to 550 Advisors, and we'll be able to walk people through that pretty simply. We just ask for patience for another year or two while we work out the details and make the plan work as possible for everybody. We have a great team. We're just gonna try to streamline this and make it as efficient and as good as possible every year. We have to dial a few things in. Full plan details will be ready by the end of June. I know that's something the staff has asked for. We're way ahead of the game. Insurance companies with stop loss coverage don't typically give final numbers or approvals before the end of May. That's just so they have time to finish all their risk reviews, which is totally normal, nothing to worry about. We've done this long enough to make solid estimates, and we're confident coverage and claims will be much better than before. Because of that, we're gonna offer employees with dependent coverage a 5% reduction in their current monthly premium, which is real money back right away. We're hoping to substantially grow that savings after a year or two of plan history, but we want to put something real in people's pockets from day one. On this year's plan, 550 Advisors have taken over, and we're digging into what's going on. Just to let you guys know, we're still coming up with a solution. There's a lot of bills that aren't getting paid, and we're working to fix that and clean things up. Letting our previous broker go was definitely the right move, and we keep finding more problems they left behind, mostly due to a severe lack of communication and progression. We're still trying to figure out exactly how the plan was configured, so it's a big puzzle we're trying to put together. Hopefully by the end of this week, we have a couple meetings and we'll be able to get everything sorted out. I'll update you when I know what the fix looks like, but it could be a big project to get some of this stuff corrected from this year's plan. We're not sure yet, so we'll work on that. As far as budget, I'll be really quick on budget. In May, we're hoping to bring you guys something to look at. Well, we have to bring you guys something to look at in May. So this is just kind of a preliminary update. Since the process started, the staff, and when I say staff, I mean everybody, the directors, principals, Mrs. Cody, everybody in this room. I would estimate there's over 250 hours going into all these positions. We've looked at every position, every program, every budget line item across every single building. And this work's produced something like 500 to 700 individual budget adjustments that we have to make to balance this. We share it not to brag or complain, but we want to let you know it's been a really tough year and the people worked really hard to be careful with public money. Nothing in this thing was a blanket cut. Every decision was made on purpose with students, staff, and the long-term health of the district in mind. So without going into too much detail, with the amount we needed to cut and the additions we did were just a hair over $5 million worth of movement. And the total reductions are just over $5 million. So we've had to reduce $5 million because of the additions and what we had to cut. So, I mean, that's a pretty impressive number considering we have a $22 million budget. So a lot of movement up and down. Some of the reductions were positions that were left vacant when staff departed. Not every seat was filled. Positions were restructured or hours or contracted days reduced. Positions abolished where student numbers or programming no longer supported them. Supply and equipment budgets were trimmed to realistic levels. Contracted service costs were adjusted or eliminated where possible. Program and operational expenses were reduced across buildings, maintenance, and district accounts. None of it was easy. The goal in every case was to protect students and classrooms as much as possible while dealing with the budget requires. Some of the things were added, were replacement positions where staff departed or needed remain filled. Salary adjustments, lanes and step improvements for staff who earned them through education experience. There was a modest number of new or reconfigured positions where student needs or program changes were required. So utility and operational cost increases outside the district's control, your water, sewer, insurances, utilities, things like that. Revenue corrections, there was quite a few of those where we had to go through and, you know, like a year ago, and I told you we would be coming back in a year and adjust things further. That's what we had to do. We had to come back and adjust a few things. And then figured in the enrollment-driven revenues, the PPR, to address actual and expected student counts. The biggest part of the conversation that I think deserves the most attention is just to let you know that there is still a possibility and a probability of impact. You know, the state's budget finalization sounds like they're getting really close, and they basically balanced, and they're going to get that done. But it also included a major reduction of reserves statewide to get that done. So that's one thing that we have to notice. They're basically using the savings account to balance us out. The state budget in future years, if they keep creating reserves and they don't make actual cuts, again, future years are forecasted to be worse. So we're looking at a downward trend. And there always is an open option for a state rescission mid-year. You know, we don't know exactly what that looks like at this point, but we will. So anyways, I'll be bringing more stuff to you guys next month. But if you have any questions, anybody got any questions?
No questions, you're off the hook.
Sounds good.
Mr. Yake is putting a ton of hours in this budget. Was it 700 journal entries? For line items, adjustments, it's a lot, that's a high number for a new budget. So thank you for all the hours and all the work that you're doing. Appreciate it greatly.
Thanks, Keith. Next item of business, 6.4, board reports.
I zoomed into the CBOC's meeting this week. Excuse me. And basically they're going through lots of budget things too. The biggest thing, since we contract with them for SPED, is they're looking at trying to reduce the amount of contract providers they have and get more in-person providers, because that's a big reduction in costs. So they're trying to work on that. But the assessments to districts are going to be increasing. So those are our two biggies that.
You didn't hear that, Keith.
I know, sorry.
I already got it accounted for.
I'm sure you already got the bill.
Surprise.
Rain or shine, they hit you every year.
I know.
Meet and confirm met Wednesday, April 8th. Basically, there was policy that was introduced, policy discussed. That's about it, just a lot of policy.
Yeah, met with Dak and Danielle covered it.
Any other-
Finances meeting.
May
Meeting
4th.
May 4th.
Yep.
We'll meet ahead of this meeting.
Any others? Very good. Next item of business, superintendent's report.
Because my report tends to be a little lengthier than most, if you all want to head home, don't feel like you have to stay. I will not be offended if you get to hear this, and you're going to spend half a day with me on Thursday. So thank you so much for being here.
It's a 4-2.
What's the score? That's the only
My
requirement.
phone is kind of frozen, so, and it's still hanging out there, it has been for a while, but I'm thinking it was 4-2.
Who's ahead?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys have a good night.
You too.
You
Thanks,
too.
Keith.
Thanks, brother.
He's away. That's it.
Did I just look thirsty or?
Just paying attention.
Nothing gets by that guy.
All right, first up is just a reminder that you have a work session on May 4th. We have a work session on May 4th. We'll be discussing the mission and core values. We took a first hit at that during the board retreat. I appreciate your work on that. It will be introduced in policy AD this morning, but that is just the first draft. Also, if you will read chapter 6 of the governance core, then you'll get to discuss that as well. Notice I said you get to discuss it. Your next regular board meeting is May 18th, and that's when, as Mr. Yates said, you'll be discussing the proposed budget. A couple other pieces that I want to point out for you as far as updates. We are continuing to contract with Vicki Thompson. She was the previous HR director for Thompson School District. We're using her to clean up our RMMI. There's some documents in there we need to make sure are deleted. And also with Frontline with time and attendance, and also with contracts. So you'll see those there. They're not more than $10,000, but it's something I want you to be aware of. Also, I wanted to make you aware of a little revision with the Griggs Scholarship. In February of this year, you approved $157,985.85 being moved from a CD over to NOCO Foundation. Between the time that you took that action and the close of the CD, there was about $2,500 of interest that accrued. And so I need you to be aware that the actual amount that is being transferred over to NOCO was $160,485.85. So just a tiny little revision, and it's due to interest. Another little update that I want you to be aware of is today I found out that as they were finalizing the windows and ordering the windows for Beaver Valley, they found out that the model that has been approved and so forth did not have a laminate glass available, so they're going with a tempered glass. That will be a $20,000 cost savings to our ACV insurance fund. Remember, there's like a general fund, and then we'll request replacement costs. We still believe we can get replacement costs because if you remember, we are not doing all that masonry work that we originally thought we would have to. This will be an action item probably on May 4th. We have a little special board meeting right before we go into that work session. I'll just ask you to approve that so it's in record, so there's a change in the invoice from laminated glass to tempered glass at Beaver Valley. So and I also put a link in my superintendent's report that just talks about the benefits of tempered glass. It's the third link there, or the third tab. The short version is that tempered glass, when you break it, it will break, but it will come in little pieces, little balls. Where if it were laminated glass, it would just fracture like your car windshield. So we still have laminated glass at Thompson, but tempered glass at Beaver Valley. Questions on that? We are moving forward with it because it's an 8-week ordering period. BBD has graciously said they'll take the risk, but we have to move forward. All right. I believe Mrs. Smith already talked a little bit about the preschool grant. You'll also see there's a request for that increase in preschool tuition as well. Mrs. Kimball already talked about curriculum, so I won't hit that one again. And then also with the apprenticeship salary schedule, that is slated as an action item. Underneath that is a presentation. If you would like to see kind of a summary of the program and what it looks like, what's nice here, and I won't take you through the whole presentation due to our time, but I will just highlight a couple of slides that I think would be beneficial. One, these are all the various school districts and groups that are already implementing the apprenticeship program. This slide, and it's really tiny unless I click this shows those 4 levels or 5 levels that Mrs. Kimball was talking about and how they move from one level to another. From that, oops, I want it to go forward, we'll hit this one. You'll see here, we'll talk about that during level 2, they are going to focus on making sure those candidates are competent in teacher quality standard 2. In level 3, they're focusing on quality standards 1 and 3. And then from level 4, they have to show competency in all 4 standards. And those competencies, or those standards, are here. So they start here with standard 2, which is like classroom management, engaging students. That's what standard 2 is. Standard 1 is a lot of the content standards. Do you know the content standards, mathematical practice standards? Do you know your content? Standard 3 is how you deliver it, the assessment, checks for understanding. Standard 4, consider the professional standard. And then there are different opportunities to braid funding. Mrs. Kimball referenced that. So if you want to read up on that more, it is there. It's linked in my superintendent's report. The other piece is the staff contract templates. These have now been reviewed by legal. They've gone to meet and confer. And so they're ready for approval tonight. And also the staff for 26-27 are also an action item for tonight. I will say this is not comprehensive, the list. We needed to hold some staff members back because they either did not have the qualifications. So all of our paraprofessionals that work in a Title I school, which are our 2 elementary schools, must have a qualification because of ESEA. ESEA is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is through our federal programs and title fundings. So paraprofessionals have to have 48 transcripted college credit hours, or they need to pass ACT work keys or an approved assessment. And so if they weren't approved, we are just holding them back. We will have an ESEA audit next school year. We need to make sure that everything is set and ready to go. So on May 4th, with that special board meeting, there'll probably be an updated version with additional staff. Then expect to see more staff on May 18th at your next board meeting, all the way through until we're ready. We also have a couple of teachers who are close to getting their degree or getting their license, and so they're held back as well. Anybody who just hasn't reached the final approval, and we're wanting to hold their contract because they would receive a different contract if they get that license, finish that degree, we were holding them back and just waiting to have the board approve it, so you're not approving them on one type of salary and then needing to change that contract. So that will be updated as we go forward, and all the principals have made the various staff aware of that. The other piece is the personnel report, and I'm super excited about this, and this could have been a celebration that I shared as well. Our Beaver Valley Elementary staff, there were a group of them that agreed to be part of the interview team. And that interview team, we had a 3rd grade rep, a 4th grade rep, a 5th grade rep, a classified rep, and a special education rep. Mrs. Kimball also sat on that. Mr. Bass also sat on the principal interview. And they engaged in almost a full day of review or interviews. Prior to that, 18 staff members at Beaver Valley reviewed all 9 applications for principal. It takes a lot of time because those applications are thick. And so they reviewed them, they anonymously ranked and reasoned them. From that, we selected the top 3 candidates that had the highest number of points based on that rank and reasoning. They received the 3 interviews. From the interview, like I said, those 3 interviews and that process took almost a full day. We were here at 8 until 2 p.m. From that time, the interview committee then provided 2 finalists to me. I engaged in interviews with the 2 finalists. Each interview took about 2 hours. At that time, I selected Mr. Kevin Marlette as our Beaver Valley Elementary principal to recommend to all of you. He comes to us with lots of experience. Most notably, he was a principal in Rifle. He was also a principal in Thornton. He was a director at a private school as well. And we're just excited for him to lead, be the instructional leader, and I call him the lead learner at Beaver Valley. He is going to be attending our instructional admin meeting on Thursday, and we're going to introduce him to staff on Thursday as well. So super excited for him. After that was completed, we found out that we could go ahead and open up the assistant principal position. Dr. Wilson has decided to retire. And so that has been opened up, and he's planning on, anyway, so we opened up that assistant principal position. With that, we did receive 1 additional application, so contacted the interview committee as well. It was the entire committee, except instead of Mr. Bass, because it's assistant principal, we had Mr. Marlette there. So Mr. Marlette did not lead the interviews. I was the facilitator in his place, but he was right there as a participant, so that he could interview and review applications for his assistant principal. We took an hour to review applications and discuss how we wanted to move forward. We had 1 interview scheduled at 2 o'clock, and that was with the other finalists. Remember, we had 2 finalists, so it was easy to say, well, let's make sure we interview that person, then do we want to interview additional people? So the team went into that interview. We had interview questions ready and asked all those interview questions. It was a nice long interview, it was about an hour. And then afterwards, the team debriefed. I take them through a process of strengths and challenges, and then finally recommendations. And the team decided to offer the position to Mrs. Amanda Boydston. Mrs. Amanda Boydston comes to us from Rangeley. I had the opportunity to do several reference checks for her, and the 2 superintendents I talked to said they would hire her back in a heartbeat. So she has a lot of instructional knowledge and intervention and data, so it'll be great to have her in that place. She's also will be working on discipline and helping with a lot of different capacities, from assessment coordination to helping with coordination on different levels, and I've shared with you that job description. So super excited about that. Also, another big announcement is that at the secondary campus, they conducted interviews for dean, and I'm excited to state that Mr. Tyler Doffenbaugh was offered the dean position. So those are all in that personnel report tonight, and again, just super excited for those 3 leaders to come into these roles. I think they're going to do an excellent job. Any questions on all of that? All right. There was a lot there. That one felt like a long one. I'll try to keep the rest a little more brief. Tolling agreement extension, the action item is for not to exceeding 3 months, or not to exceed 3 months. Mr. Yake already explained Fund 64, the health insurance bank account, that will just be sold for that. Also, you'll see the revised spending plan. This, just so you know, in the previous version, there was an error in calculation. This version is corrected, and there's an additional $100,000 reduction in spending. We were able to put that into indirect costs, so that was excellent. That was a cost savings for our district. In addition, you'll also see there is a CEI contract for the strategic planning that is paid for through the EASY grants. Mrs. Kimball referenced that. This will be for the cost for the 26-27 school year for the strategic planning work, and that's $29,750, and it will take the full year. Our goal is to have a draft strategic plan to you in February of 2027. Any questions there before we go into policy? So there are more policies than I really liked to have at any one time, but fortunately, some of them are repeal and a lot of them are tiny little pieces. So don't throw anything too hard at me, but we'll try to do this quickly. The first one being introduced tonight is policy AD. I've already referenced this. This is your mission, vision, and core values and what you worked on during the board retreat. The next one, policy CCA, is the updated organizational chart. So we're getting ready for the employee handbook, which will come your way in June. And this needed to be refined for that. The next policy is EEAGE. And this is to revise the MOU for staff transportation of students in a personal vehicle. When we had a situation come up, we realized we just needed to update our form to align to practice, and so that's what this one is doing. You can see the old version below, and the new version is in red. The next one is GBEAE, and this is staff ethics, conflict of interest. And this is putting a phrase in number 4 that it says to not exceed $50 in a fiscal year with any gifts. Then we have GBEB, and that is to continue that language into that policy. See, those were quick. The next one is GCE, GCFR, professional staff recruiting and hiring. And this one you'll see instead of Department of Human Resources, we have superintendent or designee throughout the policy. And then GCL, professional staff schedules and calendar. This is to revise the day to the correct number of days since I have been here. The number of employee days and the number of, for instructional employees, and the number of student days. The next one is policy GD. This is to define what a year-round full-time classified employee is. And it is one that works at least 220 or more days or a schedule of at least 1,760 hours annually. And then the next one is GDBC. This one has a little bit more in it. This one did go to legal, and we've had some discussions between Mr. Yake, legal, and myself. And this is about compensation time. So a practice that has taken place in our district is to allow people to mark down hours and get compensated for those hours, and they can take those times later. Legal has recommended we need to refine that practice, and that's outlined in this policy. I will be talking about this policy at length with the full admin team on Thursday. The next one is GDQD. This is discipline, suspension, and dismissal of support staff. And you can see we're just removing a couple things, particularly removing the credit report. We actually don't run credit reports when we're hiring staff. Then we get into my next little one. Our second readings. For second readings tonight, we have policy GBGH. That is the policy that used to be called the Sick Bereavement Leave Bank. It is now being called the Donated Leave Policy. You'll notice that the Sick and Leave Bank, I mentioned to you last regular board meeting, that is being terminated, that is ending. And each active employee will receive 8 hours of general leave for the 26-27 as we close that. The donated leave used to be called the donated day policy. And you'll see it outlined on page 2 what that looks like. One of the key pieces is that employees wishing to donate may not exceed 40 donated hours. It used to be you could only donate a couple of days. Now you can donate up to 40 hours. But they must maintain 120 hours of general leave after the donation. So they have to have enough before they can donate. Questions, discussions on this policy? This is one that's being slated to is being recommended to be moved to third reading. All right, the next one is policy GBGJ. This also And I should say GBGHE and GBGHR are both being repealed because those are components in that sick bank. And since that's being terminated, we're asking that those two policies be terminated or repealed. GBGJ, let me say that again, GBGJ, we're just adding the term fiscal in front of year. So it's not a calendar year, it's a fiscal year, just to clarify about bereavement leave. Any questions on that one? Next is GCBAR, the instructional staff contracts, compensation, and salary schedules. You'll see what is being crossed out and what is being added. And the essence of this is this piece. What has been allowed until this recommended revision is staff can take a class online or in person or go to a conference, and those credit hours are turned in, 15 hours are turned in as a transcripted, equivalent to a transcripted credit hour, college level credit hour. And then once you have so many of those, then you move over on the salary schedule. We often call it lanes is how it's referenced. So if you picture the certified salary schedule, it's like BA plus 20, or MA and Masters, MA plus 20, plus 40, and so forth. As the policy was, they can move over by taking those various classes and then transitioning them into a credit hour by that 15 hours to 1 ratio. We're recommending that pause or that cease, that stop, because that's hard to budget for, 1. 2, yes, you can use that for your license, but we're asking that to move over on the salary schedule that they be transcripted hours. Staff who are currently at, let's say, like BA plus 20, because they did that many hours, even though they're not transcripted, will be grandfathered in if this policy is approved. So it's not they'll be reduced back down, they'll be grandfathered in. Another piece of feedback that I've heard from staff is, can we wait and have a grace period with this policy until December 30th? That would give staff the opportunity that are working on this and are ready to turn them in. I guess we have a couple staff members who are really, really close, so it would give them one more opportunity to turn in all of those certificates and those hours that they've been working towards to be able to move over a lane. One more opportunity, that would be in August. We only accept those in August and January according to our new revision and policy, instead of September and February. So now it would be August would be their opportunity to request that. They would get to move over on that lane, and then as of December 30th, that portion of the policy would cease. And then starting January 1st of 2027, if this policy is approved by you, they would need to be transcripted hours. And again, anybody who moved over would be grandfathered in. Questions and thoughts on that?
What is the, so let me make sure I'm understanding appropriately. That these are like continuing ed courses or programs or conferences or things that our staff are engaged in.
Correct.
To earn those credits.
Mm-hmm.
What is our vetting process for those, or requirements or stipulations saying that this is a course that was taken, this was a conference that was attended, and it meets rigor and standards worthwhile of the credit?
We can't. I mean, there is no vetting that we're able to do, which is the difficulty. With a transcript, you do have accredited schools. You get a transcript from a university or a college or a junior college, and you can see these are the classes, and this was your grade, and this is you did gain some knowledge by this. The certificate, I think those are great. Yes, definitely, I would encourage staff to continue to engage in professional development. Some great, high-quality professional development. However, we can probably, if you've been to a conference for your various industries, you've probably been there and watched a colleague attend that really didn't attend. So that type of vetting, no, it would be impossible to do. Any other thoughts or questions on that? If you're okay with the grandfather clause, I'd like to add that to this piece and say it will be implemented starting January 1st. That's okay?
So are you saying you'd rather just keep that in second reading for another?
We can
Or how do you
either,
want to do that?
I probably will ask the board to go ahead and move it to third reading. But in second reading, we can revise it. And so
Okay.
what I will do is just put a line here that says, this policy will go into effect January 1st, 2027, which will give them a grace period.
So I haven't had a chance to fully review this in depth, but the conversation about postponing that to allow current staff that are in process of meeting a lane change, what's your recommendation there? Or do you have one written in here? And
I don't have it written in here. Mine is, I would recommend the implementation of this policy January 1st and go to transcripted. And to give them until the end of December to finish up what they need to do. That will give them the summer, that if they need to attend professional development, there's the JET training through CBOCES, or whatever it is, it acknowledges, hey, this is changing. It gives us some time to transition, it honors the work that they have done. And then from there, it will need to be transcripted hours. And so I'd put a line here, just like I stated, that this will go into effect starting January 1st of 2027. The reason why I would ask the board to go ahead and move forward with approving it is then it could be in our employee handbook. It's policy that everybody knows starting off the school year, that yes, there is a grace period for a semester, but that it ends in December.
so being a little out of school, for lack of a better term, on this particular these processes and timelines and what that all looks like for an individual seeking those certificates. By adopting this policy, or moving this policy to third reading, following our process, adopting this policy through that process, what are the chances or ability or odds that we have a whole bunch of staff run out and seek a bazillion certificates over the summer to move a lane, and we sit here and have the same conversation about, are any of these vetted, was there really true value gained in this, or was just a massedness of hurry up and get ahead of the policy?
I think we will see staff try to get this completed by August 1st, I do. I don't think there's a risk, because I think the classes and what they'll engage in will be meaningful and helpful. Hopefully, we can provide, some recommendations too, like here's some great classes, whether it's science of reading or on instructional strategies and so forth. And there's no guarantee whether they will or they won't, right? It's on them, and there's no vetting process. So once it's approved by the board, whatever the process has been up to this date will just continue, which means they turn those in to Mrs. Redden, whoever's in the payroll and benefits office, they turn those in, and she does not vet those. That's not her role, nor was it her predecessors. And so they count the hours, and if it appears that that person meets satisfactorily all the requirements, then they're recommended to move over on a lane. Any other thoughts or questions on that one? All right. Going on to our next one here. Before we go into the third readings, I am recommending to the board that you hold back policy CBA, CBC, CBI, and CBIR. Those are the qualifications, power, and responsibilities of the superintendent and the evaluation of the superintendent and its regulation. During the board work session, we talked about revising the role of the superintendent, which will also impact the evaluation. I think it will impact this policy. So I don't want us to have to do that twice. So if you'll just hold that, I think that would be best. Any questions on that? The other one that I'm recommending you hold from moving forward to third reading is GBGG. We're working on a couple little pieces there, so that will be ready next month. I anticipate it being ready to move forward. There's a couple little pieces.
Will that not go in the employee handbook if it's not?
It will. I may need to, I don't want to wear the board out, but we may need to do a policy at that special board meeting and third reading at the May 18th board meeting. Great question. There are several policies for third reading, and those are EBCE, school closing, cancellation, late start. That is just allowing that late start piece. And then you have your parent engagement policies. Those have gone through DAC in first and second reading, as you know. We've had discussions. And then the last one is IGOCR, and that is a clarification on the school volunteer process and who that is for. And President Chard, that is all I have.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Cody before we move on?
I could keep going.
Next item of business, it doesn't appear that we have any community comment at this time. So we'll move on to action items 9.1, preschool tuition.
I move to increase the preschool tuition to $708.75 for full-time and $393.75 for part-time for the 2026-2027 school year.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to increase the preschool tuition to $708.75 for full-time and $393.75 for part-time for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Church?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.2, preschool Head Start grant approval.
I move to approve the Head Start grant application for the 2026-2027 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Head Start grant application for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
All right. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.3, science curriculum.
I move to approve the purchase of middle school and high school science curriculum resources for $66,054.27 as recommended by the Curriculum Council and the DAC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of middle school and high school science curriculum resources for $66,054.27 as recommended by the Curriculum Council and DAC. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.4, 2026-2027 staff contract templates.
I move to approve the staff contract templates for the 26-27 school year as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the staff contract templates for the 26-27 school year as presented. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.5, 2026-2027 staff recommendations.
I move to approve the Brush School District staff personnel list for the 26-27 school year as presented.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the Brush School District staff personnel list for the 26-27 school year as presented. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, personnel report.
I move to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel report as presented. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.7, apprenticeship salary schedule.
I move to approve the apprentice salary schedule for the teacher degree apprenticeship program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the apprentice salary schedule for the teacher degree apprenticeship program. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.8, tolling agreement extension.
I hereby move that the superintendent be authorized to execute an extension of the tolling agreement with Selective Insurance Company not to exceed 3 months in order to continue the presentation of the school district's hail damage claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the superintendent be authorized to execute an extension of the tolling agreement with Selective Insurance Company not to exceed 3 months in order to continue the presentation of the school district's hail damage claims. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.9, RMCC MDZ mediation.
I move that the Board of Education appoint Paul Chard to serve as the board representative for the Brush School District RE2J at the RMCC MDZ mediation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education appoint Paul Chard to serve as the board representative for Brush School District RE2J at the RMCC MDZ mediation. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.10, health insurance bank account.
I move to approve Brush School District to open a new bank account at Bank of Colorado for health insurance funds for Fund 64, a risk-related activity fund.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Brush School District to open a new bank account at Bank of Colorado for health insurance funds for Fund 64, a risk-related activity fund. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.11, food service spend down.
I move to approve the food service spend down plan as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the food service spend down plan as presented. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr.
I
Miller?
think it's relevant in this setting, in this public forum, to make a few comments related to food service spend down that I think would be privy to our stakeholders. And the first is understanding that this is an account that was built over time from federal, primarily federal ESSER funds and other funds during the COVID period and other funding sources. And for a number of years now, we've been asked to spend this money down. And I think prudent of a previous board and stuff, we've sat on this as long as we can, because I don't believe spending money just to spend money is a business practice or a model that aligns with our community. So I imagine that many of us, if not all of us that sit up here, have some angst with this. I certainly do. But I want our community to understand that we've reached a point now where it's use it or lose it. And that's unfortunate that we have people governing these funds and these dollars that think that way, because we certainly in our homes and our own businesses and our own practices can't survive that way. But it's prudent for people to understand that for a lot of different reasons, and want to make that very clear, because as we talk about challenging budget cuts and things of that nature, if you don't have that understanding and you see this proposal and the amount of dollars spent on food service and adding and replacing equipment, some that's not very old in places, different things, it could give you some of the same angst that has me laying awake sometimes at night, to be quite honest, over this. I think it's also very important that we understand as we do this, and I'm talking about things that we almost don't even really have a choice on, right? The district will have to understand as we move forward, when we add things, we are adding things that we don't currently have. By adding those things, it requires us to also build those into refreshment plans into the future, which is essentially creating costs down the road for a budget. So I think we just need to be aware of that, but most importantly, I wanted it of record for our stakeholders to understand that this isn't general fund money that we're choosing to haul off and spend. It's federal it's funds that have come in that are now being mandated to us that we spend or we give back.
And can only be used in the food service
Right.
account.
So, yeah.
Any other discussion? Motion on the floor is to approve the food service spend down plan as presented. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, CEI contract. Is there a motion for 9.12?
I move to approve the CEI contract for strategic planning to be paid for with EASI grant funds.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the CEI contract for strategic planning to be paid for with EASI grant funds. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 9.13, policies.
I move to grant final approval to policies EBCE, KB, KBB, KBA, and KBA-E, and regulation IJOC-R, and to advance policies GBGH and GBGJ, GCBA-R, and the repeal of regulations GBGH-R, GBGH-E, and GDD to a third reading.
Second.
So moved and seconded to grant final approval to policies EBCE, KB, KBB, KBA, and KBA-E, and regulation IJOC-R, and to advance policies GBGH and GBGJ, GBCBA-R, and the appeal of regulations GBGH-R, GBGH-E, and GDD to a third reading. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business is information items. So we have the work session here Monday, May 4th at 6 p.m. And then the next regular board meeting would be May 18th at 6 p.m. as well. And then clarification, Mrs. Cody, do you have any clarifications of anything that occurred during this meeting or any next steps that we need to mention?
Only that we will likely have a special board meeting prior to that work session on May 4th.
Any board member have any clarifications? Or anything during this meeting that you feel needs to be addressed in policy or added to a future meeting or work session agenda? There's no further business. Meeting is adjourned.